My name is Dennis Archer Jr. I am founder and CEO of 1642 Ventures, and I am the proud father of Trey and Chase. People often ask, what have I overcome or what barriers have I gotten beyond to get to where I am today? And a couple things stand out. One, my first year or so of law school was challenging. One, candidly, didn't put in the work that I needed to. And then two, being one of an entrepreneurial mind, I got distracted in focusing on business while being a law student. And I think working with the administration at the University of Michigan Law School, working with my family, and just actually looking deep inside myself and saying to myself, if this is something you really want to do, you really need to do a course correction. And it was very humbling because when I came back into my second year of law school, I found myself sitting with first-year law students who were wondering why all the professors knew my name. And I had to explain, well, I took that class last year also. And so for me, that very public-facing failure in my academic career, I would say, is one. And that's not a story or stories that I recount very often. Second, many of you know I'm in hospitality now. And my first endeavor in hospitality, I was in my 20s, just out of law school. And we had a bar called Sauce in downtown Detroit. And everybody had a great time at Sauce, and everybody thought Sauce was great, except us as owners, who failed as owners and business operators in that endeavor. However, what I took away from that was all the things not to do if I were to ever go into hospitality again. And now, having celebrated 9 years of success at Central Kitchen and Bar right in downtown Detroit, but for the failure with Sauce, there would be no successful Central. I think that there are many people that have stories of, failure or obstacles that they've overcome. I don't think that mine are special. I do believe, though, that if we capture the attention of particularly African-American youth in the city of Detroit, if we can share with them the path that we took to include the hurdles, the roadblocks that we overcame, I think that that's far better messaging to them than saying, hey, look at the business I built, look at my employees, look at my success. That to me is not very instructive. So for me and others who are able to have an audience with younger folks who aspire to be entrepreneurs, in my instance, the best messaging I could share with them is my failures and how I went about overcoming them. People often ask, how do I define my leadership or the legacy related thereto? And I would say that chapter is not yet written. And I would also say that chapter should be written by someone else. But I will tell you that if I had my druthers and if I could draft it myself, I would want to say that I made a difference in my community. I would want to say that I went to work every day, not just for me and not just for my family, but for my broader community. I would want that to say, my leadership legacy, to say that he cared about those around him, his friends, his colleagues, the educational system, those without. That's what my leadership legacy would read. It would not read that I had a number of businesses that I built. It would not read that I won a lot of awards. It would read that I helped others. In terms of what I'm doing now to inspire or to ensure the continuation of that, which I'm doing right now, I would say hiring good people is key atop that, and giving people an opportunity. And one would think that those two things go hand in hand, and sometimes they do. But sometimes you have to give opportunity to someone who may not be the best candidate on paper. It may be because you lead with their gut. And oftentimes I think that black folks who haven't had a lot of exposure a lot of professional exposure, maybe not the same level of academic exposure, but they have grind and hustle. Someone's got to give them a shot, and I love giving those men and women a shot. And when you couple those with people that do come from high standards in academia and a phenomenal resume, and you put those people in a room together to work together, to me, the synergies are amazing, and then that creates a foundation from which, as an entrepreneur, I can grow my business. One, I think that influence is very subjective. But I will give you a couple of instances where I was like, wow, okay, this is interesting. One would be when I got a request in the last presidential cycle to host then candidate Joe Biden at my home for a fundraiser. And as someone who was in his late 40s or early 50s at the time, or not yet 50 at the time, to get that sort of request to have a former vice president and a presidential candidate to come to my home. And it was really more so for my children at the time. I had two young teenage boys, and for them to have Joe Biden come to their home, and for someone to have asked their father to have Joe Biden come to their home, that was very, very significant. The other thing that I happen to find very flattering, and it's on a completely other spectrum from the political realm and the business realm, but much of my career has been in entertaining, and I am flattered every time that I produce an event, whether it is for 50 people or in the case of the auto show, 1,800 people, and people are clamoring to come. I know that they're not coming just for me, they're coming for the experience that I create and the atmosphere that we curate. However, it's very flattering nonetheless. And so the ability to bring people together and to have that congregation of people effectuate change in my community, I happen to find that very fulfilling. That's a tough question. If I were to look back, what would be my most significant contribution? First and foremost, I would say my two sons. Their success and whatever that means to them, that would be first and foremost. I would have to say the work that I'm doing with Hiram Jackson and Rainey Hamilton and others in Paradise Valley will be a lasting monument to our commitment to the city of Detroit, where we have invested significantly individually and collectively in a nonprofit to revitalize an historic Black Detroit neighborhood with buildings that will remain forever, with parks and public spaces that will remain forever long after we're here. I think that would be, to me, outside of my two sons, the most lasting and fulfilling monument of my contribution to the city of Detroit. Best advice I ever got. I would say there's two pieces of advice, both coming from my parents. One was quite simply, do the best that you can. My parents were never ones to say that you have to get all A's or you have to achieve this. They only wanted my brother and I to do the best that we could, which meant putting forth the best effort possible. And so I think that resonates no matter what you do, whether you're an athlete, whether you're a journalist, whether you're a lawyer, a doctor, or an entrepreneur. I think that that's a piece of advice. If everyone takes that to heart every day, you're bound for success. The second thing is, and this was really not something that was articulated, but it was more providing by example. My parents treated everybody the same way. My father came from very humble means, and my father would treat the shoe shine guy in the Penobscot building the exact same way he would treat President Bill Clinton. And I saw that over and over and over again with my parents, walking down the street, being on vacation, being in professional environments. And I've really taken that to heart. Nobody is more important than anyone else. No one should be treated better than anyone else because of their station in life, because you never know what other people have gone through that caused them to be where they are today. You also never know where those people may end up. And so it is definitely suggested that you treat everybody with respect, with dignity, across the board, no matter who they are or what their title is. The best advice I would give someone who would follow in my footsteps, and I would say that if it's my footsteps as an entrepreneur, is don't think about it for too long. I think entrepreneurs, particularly those, the more education that you have, it seems counterintuitive, but the more education folks have, the more cautious they are about taking an entrepreneurial leap. And I think that sometimes you just have to do it. I have a very good friend and business partner by the name of Brad Keywell. And he used to always instill that in me. I would have an idea. He would say, just go do it. Fail, just do it. Don't worry about if anyone else is doing it. Go do it. And so for any young, aspiring entrepreneurs who have a spark, that have an idea, just do it. Historical people that have inspired me over the course of my career, first would be my parents. They are phenomenal examples on everything that they've done, personally, professionally, how they've given back to the community, balancing business success, political success, but being philanthropic all along the way, even till today. So they would be top of the list. Second, I would say Reginald Lewis. Reginald Lewis was an entrepreneur around the era of Michael Milken and Ivan Boesky and others. He had a company called TLC Beatrice. It was the first billion-dollar African-American owned business. But Reginald Lewis, much like me, started his career in law. Reginald Lewis went to law school, and in fact, he practiced law for a number of years, working on the sorts of business deals that he went on to do himself. So I would say that from a role model and who I would model myself after would be my mother, my father, and inspired by Reginald Lewis. You know, the power of 50, first of all, I must say to the Michigan Chronicle, Real Times Media, and Hiram Jackson, I'm flattered to be included for this reason, particularly here in this community. Detroit has a long history of African-American leadership, entrepreneurship, civic involvement, and there are a number of people who could be awarded, many more than 50. So to be one of those who has been narrowed down to one of 50 is flattering, it's inspirational, and it's something that I'm very excited about. So thank you, Real Times Media, for that. Yeah, you know, people often ask about where do you think you are on your journey so far? And, you know, I jokingly say a lot of times I'm just getting started. But with all seriousness, I think that, you know, if I was to say I was at a midway point, I would say that I'm very excited to have learned from my failures, to learn what I enjoy doing, to understand what I'm passionate about. And I guess what I'm looking forward to on the second half of my journey is how to apply those learnings, that passion, to what I do going forward. Who knows what that may be, but I do feel like the sky is the limit.